Hi, it is day 132 of 365 days of remembering. Trina right here. I am out walking and was just filled with inspiration to do a wake up call. And this wake up call, yet again, is mostly to me, but I thought, what the heck, I'll just share it because I know that so many other people are experiencing the same thing as me. And that's how we expand faster. That's how we accelerate, is by sharing and taking what each other is learning and catapulting higher and higher and higher. How fun. So I came out to walk today largely because I was experiencing a lot of tech dilemmas in the back end of my business, and then there was, my computer says it's full, and then my permanent hard drive, or my external hard drive, is also saying it's full even though it's not full, because I can see that it's not full. And it was just feeling like that, to the point that I was starting to think, this whole thing is dumb. I don't even know why I'm doing it. And really kind of feeling like I'm just going to quit. And it's so interestingly amusing to me from where I sit now, how silly that is, and how quickly we want to allow the circumstances to take us to silly, dumb places, even though we know better. Like, even though I'm so sure and I so know so fully that I'm the decider of how I feel, that I'm the chooser of my reality, and that I create my reality, how much momentum we have around following our conditions, seeing the conditions, reacting to the conditions, and giving the conditions meaning. Like, somehow I created a story that went, I can't even have a business. I can't be a business person. Why? Because these few tech things that I was trying to do, some of which are high-end coding on my website, complicated stuff, what didn't go the way I wanted it to, in 2 or 3 times, and therefore I'm just going to throw my hands up? No, I'm not going to do that. The one interesting takeaway I do have, though, is it's very interesting to see the cascading dominoes. And that was the experience that I had today that I mostly want to focus on, is sharing. Because the first time that something goes off, the first time that something goes off is kind of like the time to notice it. The time to say, so how am I going to handle this? And my approach was, well, I think I'm going to keep pushing it for a bit. And then when it still didn't seem to be working, I think I'll just go do something different, but in the same sort of thing, like still a computer-based thing, still something related to my business. And guess what? I had now already started down the path with that very first thing of self-doubt. I had already started down the path of like, crazy woman, what are you doing? Who do you think you are? How did you not get that figured out? Now what are you doing something else? And so what do you think happened with that thing and the next thing and the next thing? So that at some point I had, like, conceptually 3, 4, 5 out of 6 things, 4 out of 5 things, 3 out of 4 things, all not going well. So the odds were getting more and more stacked in my favor, or my not favor, so to speak, my out of alignmentness. And just as I mentioned, it was almost like watching dominoes fall. Like, one bangs into another, because it's easy. There's a ton of thoughts out there that are doubtful. There's a ton of people out there that feel doubtful. So it doesn't take a lot to tune into a thought of my own incompetence. I mean, come on, we've all felt it, and it's running rampant, probably especially at this particular time, May 2020, with all that's going on in the world. There's a collective energy of, like, uncertainty and fear and fed upness and sort of frustration, that it doesn't take a whole lot of thoughts, a whole lot of vibration to activate that entire thing and have it and then knock down domino after domino after domino. And so that's exactly what I had experienced. So now that I'm out of that and I'm looking back on it, number one takeaway, notice it faster and pivot. Why do we have such a resistance to pivoting? I mean, it seems so obvious, and pretty much every spiritual teacher, or even just therapist, would probably say the exact same thing. When you start to notice the law of attraction catching up to you, meaning that you've now created a vibration that isn't what you want, and you're seeing evidence of that vibration by the dominoes falling in the direction that isn't your preference, in the direction that gives you more to feel angst about, then say to yourself, yeah, that's right, I'm feeling more angst because I'm coming from angst. So all I can feel at this point is angst. And then be able to say, okay, I don't want to keep feeling angst anymore. I want to feel something different. What would it take for me to feel something different? And for me, it's like it came up numerous times. Go walk, go walk, go take a breath, take some deep breaths. Close your eyes. Slow your breathing down. Come back home to yourself. Take the focus away from the conditions outside of you that are defining your moment and bring it back to where your true control is, which is inside of you, where you can take that pause, take that spaciousness, and redefine the moment for yourself without getting upset with yourself, without beating yourself up, without saying, oh, why again am I out of alignment? How come every time I sit down to do these business things, is it this hard? I mean, sure, that's helpful from the perspective of, so what can I do about it that would make it different? So number one was the noticing it quickly. Number two is the pivot. And number three is when I have the noticing about what it was, then take that and say, you know what, tomorrow or later today, the next time that I sit down to do something with my business, I'm going to make a point of coming home to myself first, of taking just, a couple minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, because I do meditate as soon as I get up in the morning. But then I sort of dive headfirst into the next thing, sometimes with, journaling and some conversation with my partner. So what if I just took a few minutes and came back home fully connected to myself, fully in alignment, like really amp up the, you got this, you know what you're doing, you're a being of love and light, you're backed by the universe, like feel as if I am engaging the energy of my inner being to come and sit right next to me in my office while I create whatever it is that I'm going to create, which will then create a completely different experience than when I was coming from this place of just trying to figure it out on my own and being so off and so out of alignment with all of it. It's this whole thing that I've been talking about taking the time to be conscious about the paradigm that we're coming from in every single moment, because I think we have this misbelief that there's a paradigm that we occupy that is like it's our paradigm that is like never changing. And I think that that's not true. I think that we can morph and shift amongst beliefs, amongst thoughts, and because of the law of attraction. And since most of us going through the process of conditioning have many layers to our beingness, we have many layers to even just our personness and where we stand in relationship to the world, to ourselves, and how we view ourselves, and the lens that we're looking at things. So I think it's true that our paradigm is a little more fluid than maybe what we would like to believe. And so taking that time, and especially right now, because I'm in this phase of shifting paradigms, like of fully coming into what would it look like to live in the source paradigm. And so since I want to do that, it makes sense, like any new skill you want, or any new viewpoint you want to see, or any new habits you want to develop, you have to take time and you have to make it a practice. So what would it have been like if I had started before I sat down at my desk to do business? I had said, okay, so I want to approach all the things that I'm going to do today, and maybe even note what they were, like hook up my opt-in, work on my website, like whatever it was that I was going to do a couple social media posts, do a video, whatever I was going to do. So what does it look like as I'm feeling into that, to do that knowing that I am God in a body, knowing that I am source expressing through this body, and knowing that it is part of the reason I am here, part of my calling, part of my theme, my blueprint, however you want to look at it, to have this life experience of expansion and to share it out loud, that this sharing it out loud in a big way is part of why I'm here. And if I tuned into that, felt the universe supporting me, felt my inner being right there with me, as if my inner being was going to sit at the desk and approach everything with me, imagine the difference that it would have made. It seems that it would tip the odds more in my favor, that things would go the way I wanted them to go in terms of there being this easiness around things working out. Also, though, it means that I've now set myself up for more success when they don't work out. Like when maybe it's harder than I thought it was going to be, or it's a new skill that I'm learning, and so it doesn't immediately come like that. But now I've parlayed the energy into my favor, so that if I come up against one of those things, instead of feeling stopped and blocked, I'm just going to feel like, oh yeah, that's right. Access the all of all that is and move into it. Or I'm going to be much more in tune and say, you know what? Pushing this just doesn't feel right now. So I'm going to step away and I'm going to go do something different. I'm going to recalibrate and take some space and come back with a fresh set of eyes on this, like watch a funny cat video or go sit on the sunshine and feel the source soothing me, or feel the wind on my face just like now, and just again deepen my coming home to myself, and not feel like when you get stuck in that place of like I got to get it done right this minute, unless you really do, then it's a whole different thing. But when we get ourselves into that when we don't even need to be, it really isn't serving us. And if we ever find ourselves in a place where there's something that feels like it needs to be done right now, and we can't take that spaciousness, or we can't, I mean, literally, there is moments that I have felt with other people where it just seems like the conversation is getting off to a place that is not in my fullest alignment. Just close my eyes in the middle of the conversation, take a breath, feel that coming back to myself, open my eyes, and it's just a new me there for that conversation. So almost every circumstance, I don't think it's that we don't know how to do that. I think it's that we're not practiced, one, in the awareness of seeing when it's time to make that shift, and two, of just doing it, and it just doesn't feel natural or normal because we haven't done it for so long. But remember, what we're actually working on moving into, which is this state of alignment, this being under the source paradigm as our framework, that all of our beliefs and ideas and flow and inspirations are going to come from, that is our natural state of being. So this is just like getting the momentum going. Sometimes I like to think about it like if we were to sit, one of those cranks where you sort of have to get the crank going. Well, in the first little while, it's sort of hard because you got to push the whole thing all the way around. But once you've got some momentum going, then it'll almost start going so fast that you're not even doing it anymore. And that's the great thing about momentum, is when we use it on our side, then it accelerates us and moves things quicker. So eventually, after we do this practice, it will just become natural to always attune before we have an interaction, to always attune before we sit down to do work or make a phone call or pay the bills or make food or eat food or go for a walk or go to sleep. I mean, all those things, it'll just become natural. But until it does, two most important things: have awareness, so you know when potentially you're not standing in your fullest space and your fullest connection. See the evidence of that happening, and then two, be able to pull back enough. And I have teenagers, so it's a constant fun experience for me to play in this with them, like to be able to flow with the vibe that's going on. And I know that sometimes it seems to really trigger them when I say I need to go be by myself and take a break. They feel it like as a dismissal, even though I'm not meaning it that way. And in good moments, I'm able to say, look, sometimes I also get triggered, or sometimes I also feel like I'm just not as fully in myself, and I don't want to respond to you in a reactive way from a place of stuff that has nothing to do with you. So sometimes I just need to make sure I'm clean about that. I'm going to do a little bit more with them, because I think that when anybody would hear you say that, then they would understand, hey, I'm just going to take a few minutes. And of course, be authentic about it. Like, come back to the conversation, because the person probably is waiting for that and wants to feel like there's some closure or conclusion to it. But I think it's also a skill that we can develop on our feet. Like, we can sort of dance with each little moment, so that it's not like I have to go in my room and get into a deep state of meditation. It just becomes, oh yeah, that's right, I want to come back to this place. Because literally, I left the house, and 5 minutes after I started walking, I'd already started to feel this fog clear, the fog of like failure and you can't do this and who do you think you are, just kind of dissolved pretty quickly. And then I was filled with thoughts like, that was hilarious. Like, literally, I found myself walking down the trail just giggling my butt off, because it was so ridiculously silly that I had allowed these stupid, silly little things that aren't even my forte get me, like, literally. And it was like absolutely amusing that had happened. And we can use that technique with almost everything, because almost everything that we give meaning to, you can find the perspective in yourself that will find it hilarious that you put so much meaning on that. And in a sarcastic, kind of fun way with yourself, like not in a judgmental way, because it's not your fault. We were conditioned to do these kind of things, to see the lack instead of the abundance, to see our bad parts instead of our good parts, to worry that the bad parts define us when they don't. And that's the key thing, being able to say, you know what, I can have this moment where I didn't know what I was doing, and that doesn't have to define me. It doesn't have to define my business, and it certainly doesn't have to mean that I got to go get a different job or completely quit. just allow those moments to be there and then step back into the feeling that has it. Like, I got this, and no matter what comes my way, I'm going to figure it out. It's always manageable from that perspective. And I'm going to back up. I'm going to fall back into the arms of Source and let Source soothe me, bring my inner being forth, and then ahead we go. So that's what I wanted to say for today. And yeah, I hope next time you feel yourself moving into an energetic vibration that is not the one that you want to be in, that you'll be able to remember those steps and more quickly shift that energy. I had recently heard, I think on Bentino Massaro's number 5, he's doing those enlightenment, I think it's called The Art of Enlightenment, his online course that he's offering right now, twice a week. And one of the things that he said is that is a key thing. It's a key thing to when we notice that we're out, when we notice that we've lost that and we're sort of coming into a lower vibration, that is our most conscious work to do, is to get back in to our better state. Do it. Like, make ourselves do it. And it's hard because the lower it drops, the harder it is to get that energy moving. It feels like heavy and almost like, oh, I'm stuck. And it's so easy in that moment to just curl up and let all the thoughts get you, or entertain the thought that says, I gotta go veg, or I gotta go, completely shift my focus from being high level to being like, I need to be soothed, which is fine, except that the highest place we could ever reach for would just be to like shed that offness, get back into the place that we know we want to be, get back under the paradigm, and trust that this is a process, and the better we get at it, the better we're going to get at it, and the more time we're going to spend completely living out of that source paradigm, living as the source that we know that we are. So if you liked this video, then give it a thumbs up. If you like my sharings, my musings, as I'm going to call them lately, please subscribe to my channel, because inspiration just comes and you just never know what you're going to get. And I always try to leave you feeling better than when we started. And I always try to give you something from my experience that is really working. Because I'll tell you, I am right here doing it. I got my feet on the spiritual path, walking along. And I really am these days into this notion of, just like I started years ago, of I'm going to live in unconditional love. Now I've amplified it to I'm going to live as if I am infinite source in a body. As if that is all there is to me. That is the only beliefs that I'm going to entertain. It's the only paradigm that I'm going to choose. And from that place, look out. And it's time. Like, I invite you to this because it's time that we become the embodiment of who we really are. That we flow that source energy. And that we just stand in our invincibility. Stand in our epicness. Stand in our creatorship. Stand in our truth, which is that I'm invincible. Nothing outside of me can hurt me. I got this. Like, all of those things, just be that. So if that appeals to you, definitely subscribe to my channel so you can hear all about how I'm doing it, just because, what the heck? I'm out here on this leading edge. I don't really know many other people trying it. And the more we get going, the more momentum we could have with this, the easier it will be for all of us. So if you have any experience with this and you want to share, drop a comment below. We can get some conversation going. And I will see you again soon. Bye.